Yo, what is going on? I appreciate everybody for tuning in to the nice live stream where we are going to dive into a topic that's trending. And yo, shout out to everybody who already in the chat. Hey, shout out to Natalie. Like, yo, everybody already got it, but we're going to give her a round of applause for dropping the first comment of the day, which is one that I think we all likely saw coming, but a round of applause to her. I'm hitting the wrong button. I'm hitting the wrong button and everything. But Natalie said, I'll be the first to say, no self defense is not legit. This happened in my community, and all this obnoxious lies is a bunch of crap. Interesting. So, we're going to talk about it today. I think this is a patently obvious one, but there's a few things that I want to break down, and we're going to talk about it. First of all, the first thing, hey, I'm Marcus. Here we do attorney reactions to current events and trending news. Licensed attorney for 15 years, former defense attorney, prosecutor, investigative attorney. I did a lot. Guns, drugs, violence, bankers, doctors, you name it. I've either represented them, Ponzi scheme guys, cult leaders. I either represented them or prosecuted them or investigated them. So I've done a lot in my 15 years in the game. The first thing I want to talk about is we got to give a shout out and a round of applause to actually Karmelo Anthony, the basketball player whose jersey I'm wearing. Like, you know how annoying that would be for somebody to literally, we've never heard of the name Carmelo. We never heard of the name Carmelo. I've never heard of the name Carmelo prior to number 15 when he was with Denver. Like, we've never heard of the name Carmelo Anthony. And then when somebody does something stupid that just sours the name that you've built all this time building up, it's kind of ridiculous. So that was the first thing I was like, Carmelo Anthony, what? Then I was like, oh, that's not Carmelo. That's K. That's a different guy. We're not gonna call him Carmelo. But let's go ahead and dive into what's going on. I did write a few notes down. Damn, your boy getting blind. I gotta zoom my stuff in 200%. Let's see. Let me get everything situated because I'm not even gonna pull it up. So we got the alleged perpetrator defendant in this case is Carmelo Anthony with the K. The victim is Austin Metcalf. Currently, Mr. Anthony is sitting in custody on a $1 million bond, which is completely justified. Now, it looks like he's going to get another bond hearing in about 3 weeks to see if he can get his bond lowered. I'm just going to be honest. If DFD the judge, I'm not lowering that dude's bond. Like, no, not on these facts. And we're going to dive in and go to him. So on April 2nd, a lot of people's lives were essentially ruined and destroyed and impacted forever because of a few things. The victim was a junior football player. He had a 4.0 GPA. He was being recruited by like some of the top Division I schools out there. Arizona Razorbacks, I think, was something that I saw on the news. And he also ran track. They were at a track event. Long story short, and track events are like the worst sporting events to go through too because there's just so much idle time. Long story short, Anthony was seated in an area that was specifically for the track team with which Metcalf was actually running. Witnesses, so essentially what happened, he goes up to Anthony and says, "Hey, you should move out of this area." According to witnesses, it said at that point they say Anthony unzips his bag, reaches in, and says something to the effect of, "If you touch me, you're going to see what happens." At this point, Austin grabs Anthony's book bag. His book bag is like attached to his person. We talked about this before. Like, if I knock your books out of your hand, even though I didn't touch you, I touch your books, that's technically assault because I'm actually holding the thing. It would be the same if you kicked my cane from underneath me and I fell over. But Anthony, after being grabbed, he puts in his wet work. His The victim's twin brother is there. Come on, dude! I just started. He think he got a haircut now, so he think I'm gonna just give in because he looking a little cute. What? Bye. Go. I just started. Go. You ain't even got to go outside. We just came in the house. Bye. Ridiculous. And so at that point, Anthony stabs the victim. The victim's brother, who's his twin brother, is kind of like holding him. Essentially, he passes away in his brother's arm. Now, this is actually interesting because oh yeah, it's crazy, man. I was like, shout out to the real Carmelo Anthony who not doing crazy stuff like this, allegedly. So essentially, those are the facts. Anthony subsequently gets arrested after he's interviewed by, I believe, a school resource officer. And we're going to read the article on that. Shout out to my guy, Wolverine. He gets picked up by a school resource officer. He makes some statements against his interests, which is actually terrible. At the time he's arrested, Anthony, according to police report, tells the police uh, when they say, "Hey, you are alleged to have done this," his response is, "I'm not alleged. I did it. But isn't this a self defense claim?" Now, let's pivot and take a look at because we talked about the victim and his grades and his athletic talents and what he had. He had a bright future ahead of him. I don't think anybody would deny that. Anthony was a high school athlete as well. He went to a high school that was about 7 miles away from where this incident actually occurred. He was a high school football player. He was actually getting some looks from a D3 school, according to social media posts and things that we can find. Now, bro, I'm about to put you up. Get away. Go. Go away. Bye. Don't come back in here whining. Bye. He looks so stupid with his haircut. All right. So essentially, Anthony went to a school that was about 7 miles away. Now, the interesting thing is, it appeared that multiple GoFundMe attempts were attempted to be made for the defendant in this case. GoFundMe has an interesting policy where if it's a violent crime, you can't set up a GoFundMe. They're like, nah, bro. If you wanna, if somebody's a serial killer and y'all want to set up a GoFundMe for this axe murderer, we not rolling with that. Now the victim, Metcalf, has a GoFundMe set up, and currently I think is at actually pulled it up. They had a goal of $330,000. Is at $322,155. So they're on their way of making their goal. I will tell you that kind of gave me a little bit of cause to pause. When I found out about GoFundMe's policy, like, hey, if it's something related to a violent crime, you can't start a GoFundMe. But what if not in this facts, because these facts aren't the greatest, but what if it's a situation where I was charged with a violent crime? Somebody wanted to raise a GoFundMe in my defense, and they like, nah, bro, charged with a violent crime, but I'm subsequently found not guilty. I was like, I don't know. GoFundMe policy, I get where they're coming with from it, but is a little sketch that they're the determining factor of what meets the standard for someone involved or charged with a violent crime. You can be charged with a violent crime and get it not guilty. Should happen actually more common than you would think. All right. So okay, we got a few questions here. Let's go ahead and go to the article. Then we're gonna go into these questions. Then I'm gonna play y'all a clip from Charleston White interview that he did where he actually talked about this. I agree with him on 85% of things. I think he was a little bit off when he talked about his self-defense argument. So we're going to go and read the article. We're going to go through quickly and read the pertinent keys, the pertinent things about Texas self-defense law. And as y'all know, why the hell they will not apply. I'm not going to hide the ball from y'all. They will not apply, but we're going to read it anyway. Then we're going to dive into this Charleston White clip and see where his analysis about self-defense is wrong, because I want y'all to be able to point out and make that distinction. Oh man, I already had it up. Then I just took it off. Okay, where is that? Fundraiser. Here it is. All right. He just did the name Carmelo Anthony a huge disservice. Shout out to the real Carmelo Anthony who used to get buckets. Okay, so we're gonna dive into this story. Carmelo Anthony family's lawyer releases a statement. What they're saying, Carmelo Anthony and his family's lawyer released a statement on Monday. Carmelo and the entire Anthony family are sincerely saddened that a life was lost and offer their condolences to the family of Austin Metcalf. Read the statement. Smart. He's done enough talking. Let the attorney talk. They also call for people to refrain from rushing to judgment until all the facts in the case are out. Carmelo, like all citizens in the United States, is entitled to a fair and impartial legal process. We are committed to ensuring that Carmelo's rights are indeed protected through each phase of the criminal justice system, said the legal team. Anthony's lawyer said they plan to talk with the Collin County District Attorney Office about reducing Anthony's bond and a better determination of the filed charges. The legal team says it will not make further public statement. Now, before we read about his fundraisers that I told you have all failed, I'm just gonna go out on a limb as I don't know. I don't speak for all black people, but we gotta do better collectively when we decide to jump out, just collectively, not you as an individual, if you black watching this or me per se, but collectively, we got to do way better at what causes we decide we want to jump on the hill and die for. Because I'm just gonna keep it a buck. This ain't it. Like this ain't it. For me, Black Lives Matter wasn't it. And now we realize that after the owner stole all that goddamn money. But we got to be a little bit more cautious and meticulous, and maybe just let the facts play out before we jump to a conclusion. Hey, racism is real, but everything isn't racist, and this shit definitely is not giving the spectra of a racial component to me. We're gonna talk about it. It looked like it was some ego involved. It looked like it was some buffoonery involved. A few things involved in this, but racial dynamics, I just don't see it. I know somebody in the comments probably like this uncle. Somebody in the comments gonna comment on this video, but yeah, everything isn't racist. And when you call everything racist, when some real shit happen that's actually racist, it kind of loses the impact because you just calling everything racist. Like this is just kind of wild. So let's just pump our brakes when we hear about something happening. If it involves persons from different races, let's just refrain from doing anything until we get the facts. Because we seen LeBron James jumped out on a couple occasions on social media and then had to come back and recant statements. Like it's like I don't know. I feel like just get all the information. And this isn't a race thing. I'm just gonna go out on a. I'm just gonna go out and say it. It's not even a limb. It's obvious. If you think it's a race thing, I don't know. You might be wilder. Let's see. I need the facts so I can make that. That's why I didn't say anything about it yet. All right, cool. So Carmelo Anthony's fundraisers, several GoFundMe campaigns for Anthony have been deleted by the platform. GoFundMe's terms of service prohibit fundraisers for the legal defense of violent crimes. Consistent with this longstanding policy, any fundraiser for the legal defense of someone charged with a violent crime are removed from the platform and fully refunded, said a GoFundMe spokesperson in a statement. Any GoFundMe account is not authorized or endorsed by the family. Please do not use GoFundMe for any donations to Carmelo Anthony's family. The Anthony family said in a statement. The family has set up an official page on the website Give Send Go. Let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and read it. I will play the video, but sometimes YouTube get a little goofy when I play the videos. Like the last video I did the other day, they were like demonetized. Then they had to remonetize it because they was like I was talking about violence. Yo, somebody pulled out a blick. I had to talk about it. All right, dig deeper. 17-year-old Austin Metcalf, a junior at Memorial High School in Frisco, Texas, was killed at a UIL District 11-5A track meet at Q Kendall Stadium. Police said a student from Centennial High School in Frisco, 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony, stabbed Metcalf in the chest during the fight. An arrest report for Anthony said that Anthony told a school resource officer that Metcalf put his hands on him. After the officers mentioned to others that he had the alleged suspect in custody, the report stated that Anthony said, "I'm not alleged, I did it." The report states Anthony also asked the officers, "Is he going to be okay?" and he asked if what happened could be considered self-defense. Witnesses told police that Anthony was sitting under the Memorial High School tent and was told to leave. Anthony allegedly, this is according to witnesses, told Metcalf, "Touch me and see what happens." One of the witnesses told police that Metcalf then pushed Anthony to get him out of the tent, and Anthony reached into a bag and stabbed him. Now, this is mixed reports because his brother, the decedent's brother, twin brother who was there, said that his brother grabbed this guy's book bag. But whether he grabbed his book bag or pushed him, I think is the same difference legally. Anthony was arrested and is now charged with first-degree murder. He is in Collin County Jail on a $1 million bond. Now, a few things that we have to know. The death penalty is off the table in this case. The prosecutor's office already came out and said that the death penalty is off the table, as well as life without parole. They cited to a recent Supreme Court case that essentially said, yo, you can't do it to someone of this age. So the law prohibits him from getting the death penalty or life without parole. Now, let's talk about a few things. I think we know from the facts what caused the dispute to happen, but there's a lot of things in here where all of this could have been avoided. I'm not I don't want to victim blame, but I think this is a important lesson, and he's a young kid, so I get it. But conflict resolution and conflict avoidance is a skill that is important, is a skill that everyone should have. I know kids, teenagers, hormones, I get all that stuff. I got teenagers now. But a lot of things that happened in this could have been avoided. Um, just on its face. Conflict resolution, keep your hands to yourself and not letting your ego take control. Now, I'm probably the last person because as Wolverine can attest, young me, if somebody would have said, hey, you touch me and see what happened, I probably would have put hands on the person too. But once you cross that line, you don't know how a person is going to react. You don't know how a person or what a person may have on them. So conflict resolution, avoidance, and not letting your ego escalate a situation is something that we just all got to learn. And for these young men at that age, everyone is not going to have those skills. Now, real quick, we're going to just talk about what self-defense is. Self-defense in Texas is, hey, the law allows you to defend yourself from death or serious bodily harm or defend the life of another who's in a similarly situated area. The two things that we're going to look at is really simple, which aren't present in this case. Reasonableness, was the actions reasonable, and was an equal or proportionate amount of force used? This exact same scenario, if the guy said, hey, if you put your hands on me, hey, it's going to be a problem. According to this article we read, the decedent pushed the young man. If the young man would have proceeded and punched him and they got into a fist fight, right now, great argument for self-defense because there's an equal amount of force. A push to a punch, I think we'll all agree on its face that we would say that, yeah, that's about equal. But here he used a far more aggressive, elevated means to defend himself, which was a knife. And I'm just going to be honest, according to all of the witnesses, to include the decedent's twin brother who was there, if you're asserting self-defense, making affirmative statements that could be perceived as you showing how much of a badass you are, it's just not going to help. You know, if you were truly scared, frightened, threatened, your statement wouldn't be, touch me and you're going to see what happens. So there's no witnesses that are going to be able to corroborate any version of the facts that the defendant is going to have where he can potentially try to make this look like he was intimidated. Because, I mean, I'm just going to tell you what will likely happen. I saw an interview with a decedent's brother. His brother was so close, he could hear what was being said, and he was able to like hold his brother after the stabbing. So normally, and again, I'm not giving anybody any pointers. I'm just telling y'all how it would play out. You got one person sitting down. This is the narrative that I would probably paint if I was a defense attorney. Not saying there's a great argument, but he's going to need some argument because right now it ain't the math not mathing. So the argument that they're going to make is, hey, this guy was seated. He was sitting in this area. He was approached by the other parties. When the other parties approached him, not only did you have the guy who was a football player who going to, the Arkansas Razorbacks who getting recruited by the Razorbacks, but his twin brother was also there. His twin brother was actually so close where he could hear the conversation. So they'll probably what the defense would do, and this is what any defense would do, if they're going to trial, they're going to try to create a narrative of there was an imbalance because maybe it was just him being seated. He was in this area where he was approached by this individual. His brother was in close proximity. Maybe it was a 2-1 type of thing. And the law does allow justification for self defense if there's an increase in numbers. If I have a firearm on me because I'm a lawful Second Amendment concealed carrier, and 3 people come to approach me to whip my ass, I don't got to sit there and fight them. No, because they're going to tune me up. It's going to be a threat of death or severe bodily harm. So if I actually pulled out my firearm and went to work in that situation, it gives me a little bit of deference because there's an imbalance in numbers. These 3 guys can really tune me up. So that's what the defense is going to do. I don't care how good he is at crafting his argument. I just don't see any way he'll get over those hurdles. It really went from an oral disagreement to a physical disagreement to a knife. I think it's obvious that there wasn't equal or proportionate force. We talked about the language that he used, that wasn't given fearfulness, wasn't given I'm scared of this situation. It actually was given language that supports, yo, I'm a tough guy, I'm a badass. How do courts figure out what is equal and proportionate when it comes to use of force, self-defense, and the amount of use of force that's necessary? Well, that actually occurs before you get to trial. It actually starts at the discovery stage. And the only thing that they're going to use here, what we have so far, is the affidavit of the witnesses that talks about the demeanors, the statements that were said, reaching in your bag, the statements of the suspect where he said, I did it. Those are the things that's going to be used to say, we know that a knife was involved, but his statements are giving tough guy talk, not like, yo, I don't want no. Had he said, yo, I don't want no smoke, y'all 2 dudes sit down and just leave me alone. I'm just trying to watch the game. And now you're talking about the facts that may be kind of turning the corner. Still weak sauce, in my opinion, but now you're starting to turn the knob in a way of a person who's really fearful would express their fear by making these type of statements. Now, one of the biggest things that is a common that I've seen as a defense attorney, when I was a defense attorney, people do not know what actually amounts to self-defense. And that's actually a problem. Let's talk about Texas where this occurred. We know that Texas, I believe, is a constitutional carry state. One, people don't have the proper education on what constitutes self-defense. People don't know if where I'm at, is there a duty to retreat if I actually can retreat? Is this a stand your ground state where I don't have a duty to retreat? It even gets as finicky as brandishing. Real fact pattern. Well, not a real fact pattern, but here's a hypothetical fact pattern. I'm in DC. 3 guys are approaching me, and they're like, hey, cuz, what size are those shoes? That's a universal sign for we about to take your shoes. What size are those shoes you got on? And my response would be, they're your size. Like, now, my response, but no, like, what size are those shoes? Universal sign in the hood for you about to get jacked. Or do you got a Jack or a Newport or something like that? But if 3 guys are approaching me and I like, oh, they asked for my shoe size. If I'm strapped and I lift up my shirt like this and I'm like, yo, y'all back up. I don't want no problems. I don't want to have to push nobody muffin top back. Y'all back up. Right then and there, I actually committed a crime of brandishing because in DC, you can't brandish a firearm. So, but in some states like Arizona, if you're in Arizona, same exact fact pattern happens, I brandish my firearm. Yo, y'all back up. I don't want to do this, but don't make me put in this wet work. Completely legal. You can brandish a firearm in Arizona. I believe it's Arizona. Don't quote me on that. I don't want to allow Arizona laws. But some states allow for the brandishing of a firearm if that brandishing is done to dissuade a threat of death or severe bodily harm. So you have to know the laws where you at. And a lot of people just have no clue what actually constitutes self-defense. Now, there's no death penalty on the case, no life without parole. I don't know. I don't know if just on what we got, this is very early on. This definitely doesn't look like something that would be favorable for the defendant to go to trial. If the defendant went to trial, he shouldn't get on the stand and testify. I would guess that this is going to be resolved pursuant to a plea agreement. And if it does go that route, they're just going to look at what can we have as mitigating circumstances. Did the defendant have any prior convictions or interactions with the criminal justice system prior to this? He was an athlete. Was he a good student? Did he show remorse? One of the statements that he made, he asked when he was being questioned by the resource officer was the guy all right? That actually does show some concern for the victim in this particular case. But those are things that'll be used as mitigating factors. His whatever ties he has to the community to see if he could get a plea that doesn't put him on the high end of the sentencing scale. Let me see. Stop, but hey, I know, man. A lot of people gonna be like, man, this dude in here cooning, man. This was racist. Not racist at all. Yeah, way too much. You 100% correct on that, Devin. He had the right to defend himself, but the proper equal force would have been just punching the guy in the face, whipping his ass, calling it a day. Now, had he punched the guy, now think about how crazy this could get. He punched. Let's say hypothetically, he like, yo, touch me and find out what happened. Victim pushes him. He gets up, punches him. Victim and his brother. Because I'm just telling y'all right now, if my brother getting in the fight, I'm jumping in. My brother getting in the fight, I'm jumping in. That's just kind of what it is. Like, but let's say in this hypothetical situation, this is how certain facts can change the legal analysis. In that situation, hey, don't touch me. Guy like, no, if you touch me, watch what happened to you. Victim pushes him, defendant punches him, victim and his brother proceed to jump on the guy. Now the guy pulls out a knife and puts in some work. In that situation, if that was the fact pattern, just on that fact pattern right there, hey, I think he has a much stronger argument that it's actual self-defense. Now, the statement is still kind of bad, but hey, a 2-on-1, there's an imbalance in the amount of people who could potentially whip your ass. These guys are high school athletes who are being recruited by D1 schools. But on these facts, it's just not looking good at all. Let me see. Hey, yeah, man, bro. Co-counsel, you on it today. Co-counsel, you on it today. Muffin top, man. You don't want to get your muffin top pushed back. Okay, all right. I thought it was Arizona but I wasn't sure. I be looking anytime I travel to a state. I gotta be like, man, let me see what the gun laws is. I don't want to come out here and get arrested. I don't want to come out here and get arrested. Now, I want to take a look real quick at a video that was done by Charleston White. Now, it's probably about 2 minutes. I'm probably going to take more intermittent pauses in this video to comment just because YouTube is stupid. If I play like a minute of the video, they're going to be like, oh, no, you can't use it. So I'm probably going to have to intervene a little bit more. Dude, relax. You look so ridiculous with no fur. Go away. You look skinny. Move. I know you don't got to go to the restroom because I already took you out. Oh, my goodness. This dog driving me crazy. All right, my bad. So we're going to take a look at this video that Charleston White made. I think all of his points, most of them, 90% of them were accurate. He was a little flawed on the self-defense standard. We're going to talk about that, and let's go ahead and dive in. Let's remove that. Let's add a new screen. Share screen. Austin White on the screen. All right, shout out to, I always want to give credit to the content creator. This is Charleston White on Prime Time with Alex Stein. He's discussing the Austin Metcalf. Not about race, is about what's right. I agree with that. Not about race. Let's dive in and see what he's talking about. And I'm gonna just give y'all a heads up. I thought that Charleston White was on point for most of this. Most of it.
What do you think is going to happen in this Austin
Metcalf ass go, well, no, that boy going to
Karmelo
jail.
Anthony is going to go to jail.
Karmelo going to jail. Because listen, you cannot bring a weapon to school.
Yeah.
So you can't say I was
what if he says self-defense?
There's no self-defense, because if you are afraid the day before where you have to take a weapon to school, why not notify your parents? Parents, you notify the school teacher.
All right, let's just, I mean, that is, I don't know. I don't agree with that statement. For one, is legally wrong, but two, that's just not how it works. You know how many people, you know how many kids who are in high school, middle school, who I've represented when I was a defense attorney, who was scared shitless, but they were actually like, yo, I can't let, this is the neighborhood that people grow up in. Y'all, when he makes this statement, we got to think about the dynamic that some people grow up in. Like, people in this country, in Black communities, grow up in, I like, yo, hey, mom, dad, it's two guys down there trying to jump me. Okay, well, you're going to go outside and fight both of them because you better not run in this damn house. So it's actually plausible, not saying in this case, but just his scenario that he gave. In this case, no, but his scenario just doesn't make any sense, because I've represented a bunch of persons who were charged with possession of a firearm, possession of a weapon on school's grounds, and they were legitimately scared, but they couldn't go to their parents about it. They were scared that if they would go to school, it would be worse. So they literally took whatever it was for self-defense purposes. So I'm not feeling that part of it. The other thing is, just because you aren't legally authorized to have a firearm, a weapon in some area, it does not negate the validity of your self-defense argument. The prime example we always see is, yo, you can't carry, I could be a concealed carry permit lawfully holder in DC. I get on the subway and, bro, you driving me crazy. Get out of here. Go, go, go. Go. I'm gonna close the door, and if I open the door up when I'm done, if it's a tourist sitting out the door, I'm gonna be like, I can't even get mad at him. It's gonna be my fault. Look at, I'm almost done. Move. Man, this dude driving me crazy. All right, so the scenario that you always see is lawful concealed carrier. I know I can't have a firearm on public transportation, but bro, I get off at 1 a.m. and I gotta catch the green line, and there's all sorts of creepy ass people on there. So I'd rather have something than not have something. Or if I'm in New York, they're setting people on fire, pushing people on the damn train tracks. So just because I possess the firearm lawfully, but I have it in a place that makes that a crime, possession of a firearm and public transportation on public transit, that in and of itself is a crime. But if I actually get into an altercation, I could still have a legitimate means of self-defense. They're two separate events. So he's combining all of these events, and that's just not how it works. But let's go ahead and check out the rest of it. A lot of it I agree with, but these points were kind of wow.
A weapon to school, why not notify your parents? Parents, you notify the school teacher. School teacher, let's bring these kids in here and resolve this issue. It's called conflict resolution. We was taught in homes that has morals and values, you tell the teacher. Somebody fucking with you, you tell the teacher. Let the teachers know, so when y'all have an altercation, you're cleared and you're covered. Documentation beats conversation. So where's the documentation to say this is self-defense?
Y'all parents said that, like, hey, if somebody messed with you, tell the teacher. But if they keep fucking with you, whip their ass. That's facts. I think that's a fair point. Conflict resolution, conflict avoidance, not letting your ego pull you into a situation.
It's a premeditated crime because you took a weapon in fear.
Is not a premeditated crime. We talked about this before. Damn, I'm fucking up. It's definitely not a premeditated crime. No shade to Charleston White, but the terms that he's using have a legal nuance. Premeditation requires planning, deliberation, a substantial act, and a furtherance. Now, if him and this guy had a beef before, and he was like, "Yo, I'm taking this to, and I'm gonna tune him up," and he had a book in his house that had the guy's name in it, now you're talking about premeditation and deliberation. But the possession of a weapon illegally doesn't mean that the use of that weapon is actually premeditation. So, some legal points here that aren't correct, but generally what he's saying about conflict resolution, conflict avoidance, all of those things, I'm agreeing with.
Anticipating to use it.
It was premeditated, though.
And it said a track meet. You getting ready to run track with other kids and you got a knife on you. No, man, you got to go to jail. You got to go. There's no so when is it all right to kill the bully? I don't give a fuck what the bully did. He don't have a right to die.
No.
Man, you weak man. That's why I say teach the kids how to deal with bullies and this won't happen.
Yeah. I think that I agree with that. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying if you teach them how to deal with bullies, this won't happen. But learning to deal with a bully provides an individual with, and I'm not saying that everybody is built differently. Some kids aren't going to deal with a bully. They aren't going to kick their bully in the nuts and do all of these type of things. Like, no. But there is some value when you learn early on, well, how do I deal with somebody who's picking with me and deal with it in a way where I don't got to risk getting my ass whipped or potentially whipping this dude's ass. So there is some value in that. Now, this is my take. What we see in society is if someone's being bullied and they're going to try to find a way to, for the most part, not all the time, but try to find a way to remove that situation. You got cyberbullying laws, all these different laws out there. Some are being enforced in certain areas, some aren't, but they actually try to make an effort to eliminate bullying just across the spectrum on social media and on electronic platforms. Whereas back in the day when I was growing up, if you had a bully, like you told the teacher once or twice, but after a while, it probably resulted in a fight. And, you might have got your ass whipped, but bullies don't want to get in a fight every day. Every time you fuck with me, we fight. Like after a while, they're going to be like, bro, I don't even want to fight no more. But there is some value in learning how to overcome a situation where you may be picked on or something to that effect. But I see both sides of it. I see where there's a value, but I also see the value in trying to eliminate it to allow for students to just be able to learn freely without being stressed out by trying to figure out how to deal with it, because they may not be able to go home and get the resources or the help that they need.
We're all not equal. Even in nature, you can be feeding a flock of birds. There's going to always be one bird to come in and take the food from this is nature. Yeah. You cannot get rid of bullies. Teach the kids how to deal with them. Bullies build character.
To an extent. Bullies also build people who have depression, who have mental health issues. Two things could be true.
Go to work. It's going to be a bully supervisor, a bully co-worker. You cannot get rid of the bully. Teach our children conflict resolution. Everything don't have to end in violence. But when you come from the Black culture, everything is disputed in violence.
Yeah. That is the problem, though. It's
the culture.
That's the culture. That's how they solve. When you have a serious issue, they don't even.
Oh, let me see. Real quick.
Rule, right? So our kids are walking around with these mafia rules, codes, and ethics of the streets that's held over children about no snitching. So now I have to take a weapon because I don't want to be a snitch and kill another kid.
Now think about what he said. What he said right here just is kind of a contradiction, because remember, he started this video off by saying that the proper way was for this young man to go tell his parents and tell the school. But here he admits that, hey, well, in the Black urban community, there's a culture of no snitching. You don't want to look soft. So I can't go and tell somebody. So I got to figure out a way to deal with it on my own. Both sides of those things happen. You want people to tell, but you do have some people who live by these cultures and codes, and it is what it is. But I think a lot of his points on the conflict resolution aspect are correct. He was way off on some of the legal things, but this is actually a terrible situation. This is a terrible situation that a young man had to lose his life. A family had to be impacted. Essentially, two young lives are ruined. One isn't here anymore, and one shit might as well not be here anymore because he's gonna be gone forever. Let's see. I just wanted to go through some of the comments. All it takes is 8 pounds. Yeah. All it takes is 8 pounds of pressure to your temple to unalive you. Keep your damn hands to yourself. We learned that in kindergarten. And yo, real quick, hey, I think that's a great comment, Mandria. When I started this video, I said I don't want to victim blame, but let's just hypothetically ask. The defendant said, if you touch me, find out what happened. Then, according to the police report, the decedent pushed him. Do we think that if the decedent didn't push him, do we think that this would elevate to that point? I don't know. It's a good question. I can't say so. I would probably say no. I would probably say no, but that's when I talked about the ego because I already know how I was. Hey, hey, Wolverine, we got some stories we could tell, but back in the day. But like, yeah, if somebody said touch me and I'm gonna find out, the very first reaction I have is be like, you're gonna want to touch him. But once you touch somebody, once you do something and it gets physical, you can't control how the other person reacts. It's completely out of place. And I don't know the decedent Metcalf, rest in peace to him and condolences to his family. But if I'm seeing somebody carrying the bag, that automatically gives me cause to pause where I'm like, I don't know what he may or may not be working with. So, but that's just, I may be used to that because I come from a neighborhood where, people did that type of stuff. People in the 8th grade was putting in that type of work. It was a thing. This other young man, the decedent, he probably come from a neighborhood where like they just fought out all their problems and nobody ever thought about gunplay or knife play or any of that type of stuff. But I do agree with that. Keep your hands to yourself and don't let your bruised ego draw you into a confrontation. Fighting without weapons. I agree with that 100%. It's just like, I don't know. It don't happen that often. I did see a video though where like two guys were beefing and the guy had a gun and he was like, you know what? He gave the gun to somebody else, then proceeded to beat the dude up. And I was like, like not saying that, hey, this was resolved properly, but I was like, at least this didn't end up with somebody getting shot. Now, I don't know what happened after that, but, it is what it is. No one needs to be in possession of a knife at 10 a.m. during a track meet at school event. I agree with that. I agree with that comment. Literally, I lie to you not. This is just today. Just today, I dropped my daughter off at school, and when I was making a left turn in the parking lot, it was like a heavy set kid just standing in the way. And I was like, what is this dude doing? This dude need to get out. Why is he waiting in the parking lot? And my daughter was like, oh, that's such and such. And I was like, oh, you know him? He go to your school? And he was like, nah, he's suspended. And I was like, for what? And I was like, for what? He was like, he brought a knife to school. I was like, he brought a knife to school. He suspended? She was like, no, he expelled. And I was like, how did they find out? I was like, he must have been going around telling some people? She was like, nah, this dude pulled it out and like threatened another kid. And this kid was my daughter's in 8th grade. This was a big kid. This guy was a big kid. So I was like, man, that shit happened. It shouldn't be those things on school grounds, but kids is out here bringing like all types of guns, pistols, knives, pepper spray. It's crazy and terrible. That I agree with that. I tell my son to tell the teacher and remove yourself from the situation. Yeah, fighting is always the last resort because you don't know how it's going to end. My son actually told me a story now where it was kind of his fault. Like my son isn't a big sports guy. He likes sports that like like not like traditional basketball, football. He liked skateboarding and MMA and things like that. And it was during I want to say the Ravens were playing the Chiefs, and he goes to school in the area. Ravens are playing the Chiefs, and everybody's screaming in the hallway, acting the fool. He like, yo, I'm trying to go to sleep. I gotta get up early tomorrow. So he go outside and was like, yo, can y'all like calm down a little bit? Because I'm trying to go to sleep. I'm like, bro, it's like a big game. What are you talking about? But he don't get it. But somehow himself and another young man kind of have words back and forth. And so when he told me about it, he was like, I didn't even say anything. I just kind of just left it alone because I'm like, what are we gonna do? Fight in the hallway and both of us gets kicked out of school? So he says, you know what? I let it slide. Immediately, the first thing I tell him is, hey, make sure you keep your head on your swivel because if you bruise this ego in front of his boys, you got to keep your head on the swivel at all times. Here we are, a semester later, and my son was like, "Oh man, I saw that dude, and I was on the elevator with him, and he didn't say anything." Then when I got off the elevator and I walked down the hallway to my room, he was like, "Soft," like he called him soft or something. And I was like, "Well, that's a good sign. That shows you that somebody who do something like that ain't gonna really make anything happen." But you have to teach your kids to be observant. Fighting is the last thing, but you got to keep your head on the swivel. Whether you get in a fight or not, you don't know how people are going to come back. And it's sad that you got to give your kids that type of advice. Like, keep your head on the swivel because you never know who's doing what. Make sure you can see where people are in the room all the time because you never know what may happen. But that's the society we live in. Now, it's actually interesting because it varies between schools. Now, I generally think, I don't know, don't quote me on this, but I think at most public institutions like high schools, elementary schools, middle schools, I think generally across the board is a weapon-free zone. I'm just assuming, I don't know, but I'm thinking there's a weapon-free zone. But it gets a little different when you get to universities. Because when you get to colleges and universities, it depends on where you go. I've actually seen university policies that say, hey, excuse me, you can't have a knife on campus that's over 2 inches long. So you can have a short blade knife like this, but you can't have a crocodile Dundee, type knife. So it depends. The best thing I would tell people to do is look at the school policies, but there are schools out there I know for a fact where, like, hey, we don't prohibit people from having knives, but the knives have to be in accordance to this standard. Like, it has to be no longer than a 2.5-inch blade and all these types of things. No weapons on campus. In fact, he was caught with a knife previously at school. Interesting. Yeah, guns is crazy work. But people had that shit all the time. When I was in college, I knew so many people who had guns. It was crazy. I'd be like, whoa, yeah. Like real talk. I can remember being in the dorms and somebody got like robbed in the dorms, in the actual dorm room. I was like, yo, this shit is wild. I'm moving out next semester. I was like, I'm moving out. I'm getting my own place. This shit is crazy. I agree. And we used the hands. That's what it was about. Yeah, he wasn't bullied at all. I agree with you 100% on that, Natalie. He wasn't bullied. He was simply asked to leave out from underneath the tent where all their personal possessions were located during the track meet. I agree. There was definitely no bullying going on or anything to that effect. So I think his argument is a trash argument, and this young man is going to have to suffer the consequences of his actions. Yeah. 1-on-1 equal no weapons. 2-on-1, you better have a weapon. Carmelo didn't mean to unalive him. Uh, just back as just him. Yeah, I mean, I agree, but the question to me, if we're gonna have a question about this, the question to me is, I would inquire with the witnesses what was the posture, position, distance that the twin brother of the decedent, where was he at? Where was he at? He was in close proximity because I saw an interview where he said he heard the conversation, but I don't know how loud they were. This is where it's going to take some investigations on the part of the defense to find out how close was he. did he display any mannerisms that could be seen as aggressive? I just don't think that they're going to see that. I just don't think that they're going to see that. I don't think that they're going to see that. I'd be shocked. And more importantly, the witnesses, once they saw a stabbing occur, immediately everything that they've seen preceding to that is blurry. That's just how memory works. Like, you can remember all the detailed stuff, but when you see someone, like, most people will never see someone get stabbed or shot or be stabbed or shot and have it in close proximity. Most people don't deal with that. Some do, most don't. Like, I don't know. I just don't see a witness who's gonna provide any facts that would show maybe the twin brother was in a position where it could be perceived as threatening, or there was a 2-on-1 type scenario. I just don't know. I'm assuming a lot of witnesses there are going to be people who frequent the area, who probably know these people. They probably come to see their kids do track or something to that effect. I don't know. We haven't seen a witness come forward to give any facts that would allow us to make any type of inference that the fear was one of being outnumbered. And again, his statement of touch me and find out what's going to happen or something to that effect is definitely going against him. Yes, everything. Track events. I used to swim because I'm like a terrible swimmer. And I'd be like, oh man, I don't want to ruin my watch. All types of shit gets stolen. It happens all the time. So it happens all the time. I wish if we could have rewound this situation, like, there was never any knife. If a rude ass comment was made that bruised the ego, everybody kept them hands to themselves. Because this is actually just a sad thing to see. And see two young persons who both had their whole life ahead of them. Now both is over for both of them. Sad. I don't believe that because he said what was going to happen there were witnesses to it. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't. I just don't. I don't. I mean, I get your argument, and we already talked about it. That's what the defense. Hey, if I were a defense attorney, I'm like, hey, like, I'm trying to talk about, because hey, when you got camaraderie with a team, if you ever played on a team, like, teams stick together. I'm trying to build up. Yo, this team was camaraderie. They frequent events together. You got this Division I recruit, his twin brother, who's probably bigger than this guy. The brother was in. I mean, they're going to try to paint that picture. But if the only people painting that picture is the defense, and there's no third party witness to corroborate it, it's going to fall. It's going to fall short. It's going to fall short. So I would agree with you on that one. Yeah, it wasn't 2-on-1. That's going to be the argument they make. But I agree with everybody that it doesn't rise to that level unless some surprise witness comes up and says something that's completely different. My pops taught us that if someone can pull a gun, pulling the trigger is the easiest part of pulling the trigger on. Yeah, pulling the gun is the hardest. Yeah, I agree. Like, I don't know. Y'all probably heard the saying before. If you pull your gun out, you better shoot somebody. That's actually sound legal advice. I tell people all the time, like, we're talking lawful people here. If you're a lawful Second Amendment carrier, you're constitutional carrier, you got your CCW, whatever it is. If you're in a situation where you feel threatened enough to pull out your firearm, you damn sure better use it. Because if you don't use it, in some states, you could be looking at a brandishing charge, what we talked about. But also, think about it. Self-defense. If it's just me in an alley with another guy, and this guy is trying to rob me, and he like, yo, give me all your money, and he has his hand like this. Don't pull out nothing, but he has his hand like this. To me, if I see you lift your shirt up and it's just us in the alley, that's go time right there for me as a Second Amendment carrier. Now, why would I tell people if you pull your firearm out, you need to use it? One, if you don't use it, you probably could get a brandishing charge. But two, the other reason you need to use it is self-defense. If it's just me and you, I felt threatened by you because I thought you were reaching for something, but you was like, yo, could you stop a minute? I need directions. And you were reaching to get out your phone or something. But I was like, oh, he reached it. He was loud. He was approaching me. He ran up on me. Self-defense is based on what I perceived. If you, as a person who came up to me, aren't here to give your variation of the facts of what you perceived, they only have to go on what I perceive. Did I feel threatened? Hey, he ran up on me. I was in the alley coming from wherever I was coming from, trying to take a shortcut to get to the metro station. So, I mean, I'm not telling y'all to just be out here deleting people, but self-defense is looking at, hey, was this person's conduct reasonable? That's just that's kind of my position. Let's see. Hey, that's a fair point. I remember that story. I remember that story. I remember that one. Both kids' family are suffering. Yep. Out of all of this, yep. Black white storyline. I agree. Anybody who making a black and white storyline out of this, like I don't know, either they just like ridiculous or they haven't seen the facts or they just like they probably one of them people who probably I don't know. Like, I just don't know. There's no racial things here. No racial things here, in my opinion. Let's see. There was a similar case of the older guy that stabbed the teen during the river canoeing dispute. I think that guy was found guilty. Yeah, it's terrible. We're gonna see how this play out. I'm guessing that it's gonna end in a plea agreement for something that's going to be relatively long. I mean, it's terrible all the way around. I mean, I can't imagine like I lost a sibling. I can't imagine like losing a son or like I mean, it's just terrible. That's my take on it. I appreciate everybody who tuned into this video. As always, I appreciate y'all support, taking the time to allow me to talk to you all about these things. Y'all take care. Y'all have a good night. Be safe and be blessed. Peace.